It's my pleasure to welcome everybody to the July 8th meeting of the Oak Ridge City Council. At this time, I would like to ask Pastor Caleb Williamson with Heritage Fellowship Church, and he's actually the children's pastor, if you'll come up for the invocation. Everybody stand.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank everybody for allowing me to have this opportunity and just be able to pray for the City Council today. And let us pray. Lord, I thank you, first of all, just for everything that you've done in Oak Ridge in the past, and Father, for everything that we know that you're planning to do in the future, Father. And Lord, I thank you for the City Council. Lord, I thank you for bringing them together. And Lord, I ask you that you would unite them today, Father. And Lord, that you would bring them closer together. And Father, I pray that you would be with them as they make decisions for the city, and that everything would be ordained by you, Father. Lord, I pray for safety over the city in the next year. Lord, I pray for safety for our first responders today, over the firefighters, over the police officers, Lord. And Father, as the children begin to get back into school within the next couple of weeks, I pray that you will be with them. Father, I pray for safety over each and every school. Lord, I pray that they would prosper in their classes, Lord, and that they would be able to learn but have fun while they learn, Father. And Lord, most of all, Father, I pray that you would be with each and every resident in Oak Ridge. And Lord, I love you. Father, we praise you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. This time I would like to ask Ada Stewart, who is a Linden Elementary School third grade student, if you would come up and do our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job, Ada. Thank you. Okay, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pro Tem Dotson.
Here.
Councilmember Gleason. Mayor Gooch. Councilmember Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Hensley.
Here.
Councilmember Hope. Here. Councilmember Smith. Here.
Thank you. Beth, would you mind reading the first proclamation for us?
A proclamation honoring firefighter Jeffrey Hackney on the occasion of his retirement from the Oak Ridge Fire Department. Whereas Oak Ridge firefighter Jeffrey Hackney retired from the Oak Ridge Fire Department on June 28, 2024 with 30 years of service, and whereas after a successful tour of duty with the United States Marine Corps, firefighter Hackney began his career with the Oak Ridge Fire Department in November of 1993, and whereas while a member of the Oak Ridge Fire Department, firefighter Hackney acquired several certifications, including Firefighter 1, Firefighter 2, Emergency Medical Technician, Hazmat Tech, Fire Instructor 1, Aerial Apparatus Driver Operator, and whereas firefighter Hackney was the first to set up the Fire Safety House during Mayfest 1996, conducting classes within the house and teaching approximately 200 children about fire safety. And whereas firefighter Hackney became a member of the Juvenile Fire Setter Intervention Program in April of 1997 and was also a member of the department's Equipment Committee in 1999, and whereas firefighter Hackney played a significant role in several remodeling projects, including the Fire Headquarters Office and the Emergency Operations Center in June of 2012, building the workout facility at Station 3, along with construction of 2 flashover cells for Station 3, and whereas firefighter Hackney was selected by his fellow employees and recognized as the 2013 Firefighter of the Year due to his significant contributions to the remodeling and repairs at Fire Stations 1 and 2, and whereas firefighter Hackney started the Honor Guard within the Oak Ridge Fire Department and is passing this torch on to another firefighter as he retires, and whereas the City of Oak Ridge congratulates firefighter Jeffrey Hackney on the occasion of his retirement and thanks him for his years of devoted service to Oak Ridge and its citizens, now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, that in recognition of his distinguished service to the Oak Ridge community, the City of Oak Ridge hereby recognizes Jeffrey S. Hackney and offers him best wishes on his retirement and in all his future endeavors.
Do I have a motion and a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Didn't think so. Okay, Councilmember Chuck Hope is going to come down, as well as our Fire Chief Travis Solomon. And if I could have our honoree, Mr. Hackney, come up, please.
30 years of service, being a first responder. Thank you very much for your service, Mr. Hackney.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure and an honor to serve these fine folks of Oak Ridge.
Well, people we take it for granted. It's almost like turning the light switch on. We have an excellent fire department, and it's people and folks like you that make it that way. And I hope the legacy continues with the next group.
I believe it will. I have met them gentlemen and the women and gentlemen of the fire department, and I think you're in good hands.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chief Solomon, do you want to say anything?
Yes, during his retirement party, we went back, and I want to tell this, not paraphrasing,
no.
because I don't have it. But back in 1992, when he first tested, 92, 93, when he first tested for the Oak Ridge Fire Department, it said, "Why do you want to be a firefighter?" And I'm paraphrasing, but he wanted to give back to his community because he's been in the Marine Corps, and I thought he's done that very well. He's mentored the next generation. Thank you, and your job is well done. And I want to thank your family, because you missed a lot of birthday parties and holidays and games, so thank you to your family for those 30 years.
You're more than welcome. Thank you, sir.
Our next proclamation, Madam Clerk.
A proclamation designating the month of July 2024 as Sarcoma Awareness Month.
Do we have a motion and a second? Second. Okay. Would you mind reading the proclamation?
Sure.
Thank you.
Whereas Sarcoma Awareness Month is a global healthcare event observed for the entire month of July for the last 17 years, commemorating sarcoma awareness and emphasizing the significance of educating the public about current sarcoma treatments, early diagnosis, and their effects on families. And whereas sarcoma is a rare cancer of the bones or connective tissues, such as nerves, muscles, joints, fat, and blood vessels that can arise nearly anywhere in the body. And whereas in 2024, approximately 13,590 cases of soft tissue sarcoma are expected to be diagnosed in the United States, with some 5,200 people expected to die from soft tissue sarcomas and 2,050 people from bone sarcomas. And whereas, according to the National Cancer Institute, because sarcomas are difficult to distinguish from other cancers when they are found within organs, their incidence is probably underestimated. And whereas having certain inherited disorders can increase the risk for soft tissue sarcomas, including retinoblastoma, tuberous sclerosis, Werner syndrome, and nevoid basal cell carcinoma syndrome, as well as past treatment with radiation therapy and anti-cancer drugs. And whereas sarcoma and bone cancer awareness plays a vital role in providing knowledge regarding early symptoms that aid in diagnosing the condition at an early stage and increases the chances of successful treatment. And whereas, in addition to promoting awareness of this rare form of cancer, Sarcoma Awareness Month pays tribute to individuals who have been impacted by the condition and encourages research into potential new treatments. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, that July 2024 be proclaimed Sarcoma Awareness Month in the City of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and that all citizens be encouraged to educate themselves about sarcoma and to get properly diagnosed and treated.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This time, I would ask Patrick Burge with the City Public Works Department and Councilwoman Smith to go down and present that proclamation. And any visitors as well.
You guys are just as affected as I was.
And would you care to speak?
Because you were the one that had to live through it.
So we are 5 years removed. So fortunately, he has successfully lived it through the diagnosis, and it was a hard time for second grade, but it was good to have family through it.
You know, as it says, awareness of it. It's something nobody thinks you have, but get it checked out if you have a weird bump.
Glad you do.
Thank you so much. our next proclamation is going to go to Mr. Lawrence Hahn. I would like for you to read the proclamation, and then we will do our motion.
Whereas no one in our city's history has given more of themselves for the children and families of Oak Ridge and surrounding communities than Lawrence Hahn, who celebrates his 90th birthday this month. And whereas Mr. Hahn has devoted 60 years of full-time service to youth sports as a coach, administrator, and official with the Boys and Girls Club of America, beginning his work at the Johnson City Boys Club, overseeing youth sports in 1953 when he was a sophomore at East Tennessee State University. And whereas in 1958, Mr. Hahn was named the Charter Executive Director of the Boys Club of Oak Ridge, the youngest Boys and Girls Club Executive Director in the nation, and upon his retirement in 2009, was viewed as the longest-serving paid executive in the history of Boys and Girls Clubs of America. And whereas the Oak Ridge Club was formed out of an approximately 1,200 square foot abandoned and dilapidated wooden structure with only a handful of children, but through Mr. Hahn's leadership and enthusiasm, literally thousands of young lives were touched through the playing and coaching of youth sports. The general thinking is that the sports programs he developed at the club were directly responsible for the many state championships that Oak Ridge High School has won. And whereas under Mr. Hahn's direction, academic achievement was strongly emphasized and the club's don't pass, don't play policy was enacted with tremendous success. And whereas in 1982, Mr. Hahn founded the club's Alumni Association, which has been recognized as one of the largest and most productive alumni associations in the nation, giving hundreds of thousands of dollars and thousands of hours of service in support of the Oak Ridge Boys and Girls Club. And whereas since his retirement, Mr. Hahn has continued to serve as a volunteer worker and consultant and has been appointed by the club's board of directors as Executive Director Emeritus. And in recognition of his lifelong commitment to the organization, the club has been named in his honor. And whereas Mr. Hahn has been honored nationally by the Boys and Girls Club of America, and he has also received numerous other community service awards, including the Rotary Vocational Service Award, the Sertoma Service to Mankind Award, the Fraternal Order of Eagles Service Award, the East Tennessee chapter of the National Football League Foundation and Hall of Fame Distinguished Service Award, the Rotary Club Paul Harris Fellow Award, and the Outstanding Tennessean Award presented by Governor Lamar Alexander. And whereas Mr. Hahn and his wife Barbara raised 3 children of their own, David, James, and Eva, but he often stood in as the only father figure many boys and girls ever had, making sure they were nourished and receiving many of the joys in life that more fortunate families possessed. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, that in recognition of his lifetime of service to the Boys and Girls Club and the Oak Ridge community, the City of Oak Ridge pays tribute to Lawrence Hahn.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. I do know before Mr. Hahn comes up that we have some of our council members who would like to speak about their knowledge and working with him. And I'm going to tap my fellow council member over here, Chuck Hope. I think he has a few things to say, and maybe other ones.
Lawrence, you know how I feel about you. When it says that you help mold and shape the youth of Oak Ridge, I was one of those young men in the early 70s, mid-70s, and quite literally, there was a couple times in that office that you helped mold and shape certain anatomy, parts of my anatomy. So I did notice that once that was done, I would never do what I did before again, so it worked. But you were one of the first male role models outside of my immediate family, and it meant a lot to me. I'm the man I am today because of you.
Thank you, Mr. Hope. Appreciate that. So I'd like to ask Council Member Charlie Hensley to present the proclamation to you. And uncharacteristically, what I'd like to do is I see a lot of supporters. You have a posse here. So I would love for you all to come up and be in the photograph that I know Lauren will probably take. All the Boys and Girls Clubs, participants, and director, and all those folks. If you come up with him, please. And family members. But you got to stay for the rest of the council meeting. Yeah, just a second. Okay, Mr. Hensley has a few comments.
Yeah, I'd like to make a few comments here before we get on with this. like Chuck said, Mr. Hahn, Oak Ridge to me is a family. It's a family of people. And my dad passed away when I was a junior in high school. And I came down here in 1968, and I got involved in the Boys and Girls Club in 1984. And at that time, I was going to coach baseball, but I had a lot of rough edges. and as Chuck said, I ended up getting coached a lot myself. But as a baseball coach, both my boys played at the Boys and Girls Club. I coached them. I coached there for 20 years. And having coached baseball for the club, I saw kids come through there of all income levels, of all family situations. And I watched the club bring these kids together and give them a safe and wholesome place to socially grow. And you quickly helped smooth out my rough edges, as I said, and my competitive faults. I see people here from Kangaroo Court, but anyway. And my own competitiveness, but it was all such fun times. It was probably the most fun period of my entire life, was in the 80s and the early 90s when I was coaching. And all the people that I see here, there are so many people in Oak Ridge that I met that became my friends because of the Boys and Girls Club. And many of them are standing right here. And so to me, it's a total honor. And God bless you, Mr. Hahn, for devoting your life to our children, their parents, which made me a better parent for both my sons. And it's no small token. This is a small token from Oak Ridge, along with a badge from the city that I'd like to present you with. Oh, you're welcome, Lawrence. It's an honor. Can't tell you how much. Shake your hand. Stick it with a pen.
Mr. Hahn, would you like to say anything? Mr. Hahn, would you like to say anything? Okay. Will you go over to the microphone?
We only got an hour.
There we go.
Where is it?
It's right here, so you can just speak right to it.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I want to start off with, I want to thank each and every former club member that's here, board members, volunteers. I'm here getting a lot of credit, but there's hundreds of volunteers that gave of their time and talent. But I just want to say thank you, and I know you're tired of all of the three S's. So I'm going to shut up. Bless y'all.
Thank you, Councilman Hensley. And thanks to everybody who came tonight. And thank you, Mr. Hahn, for making a big difference in our community. So at this time, I'm going to ask my fellow council members, Mr. Hensley, Mr. Hensley. I don't hit it like it. Okay, at this time, we have a special treat for our audience members. I would like to ask council for your indulgence to bring up two people, our poet laureates, to the beginning during our resolutions and public recognition so that they could read a poem that they have put together. Is that okay? Okay. Mr. Hensley. Yeah. Well, you would think Mr. Hensley is running for office this year. There we go. We can conduct business. Thank you, Mr. Hensley. I appreciate that. So at this time, I would like to bring up our Director of the Library, Julie Fortner. She's going to be introducing our two poets to you all, and we're going to be treated with some poetry.
I'd like to take a minute just to formally introduce our two new poet laureates. I believe you know them as civilians, but I'd like to introduce them as poets. Rose Weaver will be our poet laureate for the next 2 years. She began writing poetry at Berea College. She has been working with young people to introduce them to the arts since 2021 through her Express Yourself program, and she's currently writing a book about the Scarborough 85. Lillian Schaefer is a rising senior at Oak Ridge High School. She is a candidate for the Youth Advisory Board, and she is a rising star in the literary world. She'll be our very first Oak Ridge Youth Poet Laureate for the next year. So, Rose, would you like to start?
Thank you very much, Julie.
Thanks for providing me this opportunity. This poem is entitled Teamwork. It's a challenge to our students as they go back to school this year, and it's also a challenge to the community as well as a challenge just to the county as well. Yesterday, I watched the birds in V formation in the skies, charting their direction, working side by side, seeing no competition of who was the lead, channeling the deep understanding, just glad to be a part of the team. No quirking or being first or who is second or who is third, just staying in position, like the young folks say, the word. Patience, hard work, reliance of one another exudes teamwork. And the prize is unity. Watching in the stillness, the leaves surveys the land, nourishment and water. For the day is the plan. Each bird played their role for the good of the cause, ensuring no one would falter or fall. You see, teamwork, that was the key, reaching that common goal. Sometimes it's difficult to achieve. Teamwork and collaboration fosters success. It exudes equality, harmony, and all the rest. Believing that each one's contribution is the best. Putting principles before personalities, treating one another with respect. Yearning to achieve teamwork and collaboration are the key.
Thank you, Rose. And we're going to have Lillian Schaefer come up. She's our Youth Poet Laureate.
I'm going to be reading one of my poems entitled Suppressed Convictions. Wrathfulness awakens suppressed convictions. It initiates corrupted violence and whispers of menacing deceptions. It leaks into the minds of innocent bystanders, conquering potential sinners who were fabricated from depleting stature. Emotional fortitude now demolished, the jurisdiction denied, the bitter slaughter of my suffering. Now I loathe this place, degraded to stifling the screams in my head with vile exertions, smothering all positive emotions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So after the proclamations and our two poet laureates, I'm going to quote our mayor, good things happen in Oak Ridge every day. So thank you all for being here and doing that. Moving on to item 5, special reports.
We have no special reports.
Okay. And we're going to go to the consent agenda. I've been asked by Councilwoman Smith if we could remove item N. We'll go ahead and vote on all the rest. I have a motion to accept the consent agenda with item N removed.
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. We're going to go on to item N. And we will have A motion and a second, and then we'll have discussion on that topic. Do we have a motion to accept item N?
So moved.
Okay. Discussion, and Ms. Smith, would you like to start with Mr. Heeman first, or would you like to?
Item N is adoption of the fiscal year 25 strategic plan that was created by, or it's titled Strategic Framework Action Plan, created by staff. And I think it's important for the community to know what it is we're asking the staff to do this coming year. So I'd like Mr. Heeman to present something about it and emphasize, let folks know what's really going to happen this year.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Sure, thank you. Happy to do that. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that this is a report that was driven by staff. It was not, quite frankly, driven by the manager. This is something that was done collaboratively, and I'd like to thank Attorney Rackard and Chief Smith are the two folks that chaired the day that we spent on this, and also point out that Lauren Gray did a lot of work to whip this thing into shape for us, and wanted to acknowledge and thank her. Really, the essence of this, and we'll just roll through it page by page, is to provide a framework for what we're going to do this upcoming year. You will recall that we did a meeting with City Council where we got input from you. We took the current projects that we have, some things that have been on the books for some time that you wanted to make priorities, and in essence, we came up with a plan. We also came up with a new mission and vision statement. I really want to point out, I think the vision statement, which came from City Council, Mr. Gleason, I think, worked with everybody on City Council to do this. I think it's a really spectacular vision for the city, and I do want to read it. It says, "The City of Oak Ridge will be the preeminent destination for residents, workers, and visitors. We will accomplish this by embracing our science and technology heritage, continuing to lead the state of Tennessee in public education excellence, and protecting our natural assets for residents and tourism. Our growth, both commercially and residentially, will be strategically guided to incorporate sustainability in our economy and to provide access to housing across socioeconomic condition and life stages desires." A really thorough statement on where we want to be as a city and the direction that we're moving in. Also want to point out that the core values that our staff came up with, and that is to be friendly, accountable, innovative, and resourceful. And you can see that that spells out fair. Okay, we'll go to the next page. And I'm not going to read everything on every page of the document, but you'll see that there are a number of city construction projects that are listed on here that we'll be working on this year. Obviously, some of the big ones are the conference center and the water treatment plant are two of our bigger projects that are under construction. We've also got a Rails to Trails project, Fire Station 2. We've got a gateway signage that we're working on. We're doing some work, if you haven't noticed, out front to the municipal building. And we're getting ready to start on the Badger building. And we've done the lighting replacement project at the library, which has been great. You'll see some other things that are listed as city facility improvements. And those are projects that we're starting the process on. We will secure land this year for an animal shelter and start the planning on that project. That was one of the high-level priority items from the City Council. We'll work on the police department. You'll see that we're working now on the fire department for location for Station 2, and we're also going to do a space needs study on this building. So on to the next page. You'll see library is in there, the school. We're going to look at and evaluate the elementary school enrollment and look at either expanding Linden or building a new school. We're going to work on a master plan for our Parks and Recreation Department and a whole host of other things. I won't go through all of them in there. We are forming a new industrial development group here shortly, and looking forward to that. That should be up and running within the next 2 to 3 months, and that will focus on all of the new nuclear industry and other industry that we are receiving right now. We've got some planning things for commercial development around Jackson Square, Wilson Street. We've got a developer that we're working with right now on that project, and of course, continuing residential development is in there. On the next page, you'll see public infrastructure. It goes without saying that we've got a lot of public infrastructure that we're working on. If you go look at the crossing of the river, the lines that run over to the preserve right now, those poles have been replaced with some metal poles, and those kind of regular infrastructure projects we're doing right now. And also want to point out our climate action plan on there to continue to implement that. We do, for those in the audience that don't know, we do track that every year and grade ourselves on that. We've added a few things on there related to creating a plan for enhanced EV charging stations, and as well as improvements to accommodate local issues caused by climate change, flooding, things that we've had to deal with. And you'll see on there the fire department and police department do a fantastic job maintaining those rates of response times, reducing crime, all the things that we're working on right now. Mission critical technologies is listed on there for the police department. We're looking at future possibility of body cameras. And I think that's about it. I'd be happy to take questions. This is a living document, I will point out. So we're proud to present it to you for your consideration.
Councilman Hensley?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Being on the Planning Commission, my only concern was to make sure that the vision statement are in line with our current ongoing effort to do a new comprehensive plan. So I talked to Chairman Whitson, and we got 2 other members of the Planning Commission here, Laura and Jane. But Steve assured me that this is very much in line with where we're going with the Planning Commission, so there is no conflict. Everybody's happy.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from council? Okay, prior to this, one of the things that we should do is if a member of the audience wishes to speak on any item on the consent agenda, please raise your hand at this time. Once you're called on, please approach the lectern, state your name and address, and what item that you would like to speak about. Comments are limited to 3 minutes and will not generally result in any formal response or action at this time. Do we have anybody in the audience who would like to speak on anything in the consent agenda? Okay. At this time, I'll entertain a voice vote from our City Council on to adopt the fiscal year 25 strategic plan. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. It's adopted. We're going to move on to public hearings and first readings of ordinances. I don't think we have any, do we, Beth?
No, sir.
Okay. So we'll move on to the next item, final adoption of ordinances. And this is an ordinance to establish compensation of city judge. Would you mind reading that, please?
Sure. An ordinance to repeal Ordinance 19-06 and to establish the base salary and eligibility for longevity payments for the city judge of the City of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, effective with the new term of office that will commence after certification of the November 5th, 2024 election results.
Do we have a motion? Okay. We have a second? Second. Okay. Okay. Discussion. I want to go to Mr. Heeman, if you wouldn't mind talking about this, and Mr. Ackard, you might want to weigh in on this as well.
Okay. So what you have before you is the ordinance on second reading for final adoption. It was approved on first reading without any amendments or follow-up questions that we needed to answer. So this city council establishes a committee every 4 years to evaluate the salary of the city judge, and that happens the year of the election. And this year, that committee met in May and decided to recommend to the full city council to raise the city judge's salary to $60,000. It is currently $41,600. It has not been raised in the past 18 years. And their recommendation was based on market data that they received from other cities for their city judges and also for the workload of the city court, as well as just the time that it had been since it had been raised. As is mentioned in the title, this does not become effective until after certification of the November election, and that is because by state law, we are not allowed to adjust the salary of the sitting judge. So it can take effect with the commencement of the next term of office.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Racker.
You're welcome.
Do I have any other questions or comments from council? Okay. Well, if there's none, we're going to go to the board on this one. Ms. Hickman. And the motion is to establish a compensation for the city judge. Okay. Looks like we have 5 ayes, and it should be no nay, or 2 nays, or two people aren't here. So I don't see Mr. Gooch's name up there, so I'm in his spot. Okay. So
She can keep it straight.
I'm not used to that. So the final adoption is voted on. Thank you very much. Okay. So we're going to go on to resolutions. Item number 9, 9A, please.
We have a resolution awarding a contract to Siddons Martin Emergency Group, LLC, Houston, Texas, for repairs, inspections, testing, and preventive maintenance for the fire department's emergency response apparatus in an amount not to exceed $200,000.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Okay. Mr. Solomon.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. The item we're bringing before you today is a preventive maintenance repair for our bigger trucks, our engines, our rescue trucks, our ladder truck. Over the last several years, the quantity has increased. The complexity of these vehicles got more complex, and like we mentioned in budget and finance, you know, having these vehicles inspected through an NFPA standard, a third party, doing the preventive maintenance at the scheduled times, it's just paramount that we move towards this. Public Works has been doing this. They've done a really good job, but they're limited on their manpower that they have, and so this would help supplement the Public Works. They would still be doing our smaller vehicles like our command staff vehicles and such. This price includes 2 inspections annually, all the preventive maintenance, oil changes, transmission, labor parts. In repairs, there's an hourly rate, and then we also get 10% on the parts, so or 10% parts discount. So
Okay.
I'll take questions at this
Councilman
time.
Hope.
Yeah, I read through this. What Chief Solomon's talking about, it's very specialized equipment. Takes a very specialized group of people to take care of this. Everything that I read through with the maintenance contract makes sense. Have no questions on that. It's a good idea to do that. Take some of the man hours away from our own motor pool, because it is such a specialized equipment, especially on the engines and the ladder truck especially.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hope. Councilwoman Smith?
Yes, this was presented to Budget and Finance Committee, and I was impressed at the notion that this company knows fire equipment. So they're specialists in this, and they'll be able to work more efficiently than our staff probably can. They'll come on site to visit our vehicles. We
correct.
don't have to take them someplace else. It seems like a great improvement in efficiency, and I hope it helps maintain those vehicles a year or two longer. So glad we're doing it.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Any other comments from council? And I will remind the audience, you can comment on any item that's on our agenda tonight. So if there's anyone who would like to do that, just come up to the lectern, state your name and address, and we'll give you an opportunity to talk about that. Okay? Well, I don't see any, so let's go to the board on this one. The resolution is to authorize the city to contract for repair, inspection, and testing of our fire department's vehicles. We have 5-0, and I got it right that time. The motion passes. Okay, we're going to go on to Resolution B.
A resolution approving a professional services agreement with Fries and Nichols Incorporated, Charlotte, North Carolina, to assist the Oak Ridge Municipal Planning Commission in the development of an updated comprehensive plan in an amount not to exceed $215,000.
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Blasius.
Contract for our consultant for the comprehensive plan. I wanted to recognize and thank Laura Carrington, our chair of the steering committee that went through the selection process, Jane Sheldon, who is also a member of the committee, and Steve Whitson, the chair of the planning commission. As you're well aware, we have 2 planning commissioners also on council, so we have great representation of planning commission here. Those of you who were at the work session are aware that it is the planning commission's responsibility or authority under state law to maintain a comprehensive plan. Mr. Hensley has been beating the drum very patiently for many years about how past due ours is, and so we're excited about the chance to have a shared vision for the community that helps us to make great decisions going forward. Tonight we have Danny Wilson, who is the project manager for the firm that was recommended by the steering committee and approved by planning commission, firms named Fries and Nichols. And Danny's going to do a short presentation about their firm qualifications and their proposal, and then be available to answer questions. I'm happy to answer any also if necessary. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we'll have the presentation first, and then we'll have time for questions after that, okay?
Good evening. So as Wayne just mentioned, I'm Danny Wilson. I'm with Fries and Nichols. I'm an urban planning manager with the company, and I'm excited to be here with you this evening. I just have a few brief slides for you. We are partnering with Pillars Development Group. They're out of Nashville, Tennessee, for this project. So one thing, Fries and Nichols, we're very proud of our history. We are 130 years old this year, and our focus is client services. So we offer a wide array of services that I'll mention, but our focus really is on clients. And one thing I'm really proud of is our first client is still a current client. So we've had the same client for 130 years. So next slide, please. We are a multidisciplinary firm. We cover everything that a local government would contract a consultant for except surveying. So we have every engineering discipline. We have architecture, landscape architecture, obviously planning. And we do transportation work, water resources, stormwater, construction administration as well. Next slide, please. So we are a national firm. We have offices across the South. We go as far north as Virginia, as far west as Colorado, and then everything sort of in between in that part of the country. But we are regionally based. So I'm out of the Charlotte, North Carolina office, and we take a regional approach to make sure we're responsive and that you can reach the person you need to talk to. You're not calling across the country for that person. As I mentioned, we're partnering with Pillars, and number 5 and number 6, Ed and Melina, are with Pillars Development. They're in Nashville. Ed is the company founder of Pillars, and then obviously I'm number 2, the project manager. Wendy Bonneau and Chance Sparks, number 1 and 3 on the slide there, are both inducted into the fellows of the College of AICP. So they're AICP or FAICP, which is the highest honor a planner can have. And then number 4, Alexis Garcia, she'll be the assistant project manager on that. So these are the faces you'll see from our team as well as some other planners that will come in. Just so you know, we've done planning for over many different communities, every population size you can imagine, We've completed over 300+ plans. Next slide, please. One thing that really matters on that is we make sure we tailor every project to the community. So you will not have a cookie cutter plan. We do not do cookie cutter plans. Every community is unique and every community deserves a unique plan. So one thing that does allow us to do is win awards for plans that we've done. You can see on the screen, this is just the last 5 years. The award really means we've matched the plan with the community and we've listened to the community's feedback to create a plan that embraces their goals and vision and how they want to be as a community. It is not my community, it is your community. My job is to listen and be able to craft a plan that reflects your values. Next slide, please. In addition to planning, we're also a placemaking company. As I mentioned, we have landscape architecture and architecture, so we know how to design spaces for public use. That's something we keep in mind as we work on long-range and big-level plans. And think about property, maybe Department of Energy property that may come available, for instance, or a downtown, future downtown area, and how that place may feel, and make sure it's the plan we're creating can accomplish those goals as well. Next slide, please. So community engagement, you'll hear talked about a lot. It is the critical part of any plan that is worth adopting. If the community's not behind it, the plan's no good. It doesn't matter if it's the best drafted plan with the nicest graphics. If the community's not behind it, it'll never come to fruition. So we need to make sure we have strong community engagement, which is why we have partnered with Pillars. Pillars has a great history with community engagement and has very innovative techniques to do that. Friesen Nichols does as well, but we wanted someone a little bit closer who has history, University of Tennessee, has actually worked in Oak Ridge a little bit in the past. Next slide, please. So while our plans are all unique, the process for community engagement is something we've found to be consistent and reliable. So it starts with getting community engagement in the beginning. So at the very start of the project, we want to start meeting with people in the community and then have them engaged throughout the entire process, regular check-in meetings, and then also prior to plan adoption, making sure it's available for public consumption, people can see the draft plan, they can ask questions, and we can make sure it's 100% transparent. Next slide, please. A very important element, if not the most important element of the plan after community engagement, is making sure it can be implemented. So we work very hard to make sure our plans have clear implementation goals that are measurable and something that you can use every year moving forward into the future. Next slide, please. So we mentioned with staff and with the committee, Oak Ridge has amazing assets. This is a great community, and I mean that sincerely. You have so many things that other communities would kill to have. But of course, like every community, there's some rough edges, some things you need to look at, and we're hoping to help throughout this process identify what those are and how to bring it all together to complete the puzzle, if you will. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, and you all know, Oak Ridge is unique, and you have a unique history. It deserves a unique plan, which is what you will be getting in this process with us. The overall timeline we have outlined is about 18 months. That could be shorter, but really we find that's the best way to get engagement, robust community engagement, and make sure people don't feel rushed, the community throughout the process. And we'll be working very closely with city staff and the Planning Commission throughout this timeline and making sure the project can move forward. Next slide, please. So again, thank you very much. I feel like we're a good match. We have a lot of history putting together unique plans for communities. I would probably argue no community we've looked at is as unique as history's Oak Ridge. And we're really excited to be here with you. Next slide, please. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, or you know how to get in touch with Wayne as well if you have any after this.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. We appreciate that. Do we have any questions from Mr. Hammond?
A couple of real quick questions. One, thank you for your time. And I was out, you all may have had conversations about this during the work session, and I was out of town, so forgive me if this has been discussed. But one is you mentioned that about implementation, so to speak, and you've got components in there to ensure it's implemented. Do you as a company continue to walk with the city for some period of time once the plan is done, or check in, or any of those kinds of things to follow the implementation, or no?
We do not have that in this current scope. That is something that we would, of course, be available for questions later, and we'll get to know Wayne very well during this process, but the goal is at the end of the project, we can leave you to implement the different pieces and move
Okay.
forward with it.
Thank you. Second one, I noticed on the slide, I thought it was interesting, so this is more of a curiosity question, that you invest in the communities that you serve. What ways do you invest in the communities that you serve? Just some examples. I thought that was interesting.
Sure. So we do stream cleanup programs. We have done tree planting. We volunteer and give back to communities. We've done soup kitchen. We've worked around a McDonald house. We do those kinds of activities as a company. So we organize staff to go and do certain volunteer activities in the community to make sure we're helping give back to those communities as well.
Thank you. Last question, this may be more so for Mr. Heeman or one of the team members, and I was trying to reconcile it as he was sharing, and that is, how would this project be related to the city blueprint effort that the city itself put forth? Is this building on that? Is this drawing from that? How are those two related? Because I know in one of our previous conversations, we wanted to make sure that the community understood that whatever we did wouldn't be replacing that work and that effort. So how is this related to the blueprint?
If I may jump in, and then Danny can continue, and maybe Mr. Heeman, but that's a great question. Because normally if you did a comprehensive planning process, the first step would be visioning, to get the community together before you get into the nuts and bolts and details to say, what direction do we want to go?
Right.
And the Planning Commission feels strongly, and they're here, 5 of them are here, and they can certainly weigh in better than I can, because I wasn't even here at the start of the blueprint. But the blueprint's vision and direction are still valid. And so we instructed in the form of the RFP that went out to potential consultants that the Planning Commission has taken an official position that the vision of the blueprint, which is reflected in your vision in the strategic plan that you approved tonight, is still valid. It is very important because the blueprint is 5 years old now, for that to be discussed and not necessarily questioned, but rather discussed in the community, so that if that needs updating or just conversation, that it can happen. But the specific answer is the vision laid out in the blueprint will be the direction that the comprehensive plan will follow.
Okay, thank you. And I only ask, and I know there may be other answers, but the context of the question is that if we really are going to get community input and we've got it built in there and it seems like, hey, give us this input, this is where we want to go, but we've already kind of gone through a process that's establishing what that is, then making sure that, we manage expectations, or we're able to balance the understanding of we've got some current conversations, but if there's something that's been done that we're looking to follow, we want to make sure we communicate that too, or reconcile that.
Absolutely, and I think that the difference is that what the blueprint gave us was sort of the big picture, kind of want to do this. There's much more detail to be fleshed out, and how that's manifested in different parts of town over time, different kinds of projects, and so this planning process allows us to peel that onion a lot further.
Sure.
And I would say that to your point about engagement, one of the big reasons, I won't speak for the committee, that you can certainly call on them, but one of the things they particularly liked about this team was not only their enthusiasm for Oak Ridge, which was great, they clearly did their homework, I think, better than anybody, and proved that in their interview especially, but also they had some very unique ways of approaching community engagement. Their company Pillars Development in Nashville is engaged as a partner with them, particularly in that process. They've got a lot of expertise, and we had some great examples of ways that they engage, particularly the kinds of people in the community that don't normally participate in public process. How do we get people out that don't already show up for every public meeting, to be sure that all voices are heard as much as possible? I suggested to Mr. Wilson tonight, as we were brainstorming a bit before this meeting, and I mentioned, among other things, that the Ministerial Alliance, what's the proper name of that? I'm sorry.
Oak Ridge Ministerial
Yeah,
Alliance.
that you serve as a member
Ministerial
of.
Association.
Would be a great stakeholder group to speak to as an example, then to get other ideas of where to turn and how to turn to engage the faith community, for instance.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Hammond. I'm going to go over to Councilman Hensley, and then City Manager, I'll come back to you on that.
I was just curious to know how, Oak Ridge, many Oak Ridgers think of the developed part of the city as being Oak Ridge, but how aware are you that we have over 20,000 plus acres of open space? And I say that from the standpoint that I would like to see it preserved for future generations. And right now, most of it belongs to DOE. And in the past, we haven't had a sharing relationship with DOE on what they foresee. They have not told us what they foresee for much of it, and we have not told them what we foresee. And I would very much like this plan to open up some kind of a communication, the process that we go to get the plan, open up a communication with DOE and start identifying techniques to preserve open space for future generations, because we have this vast resource and it's a great blessing, but left unplanned, it may go in ways that the community would not like, or I personally would not like, or you may not like. So.
Yes, sir. Those are definitely the conversations we need to have during the engagement portion to make sure we're including those things in the plan overall.
Yeah,
absolutely.
In fact, there's two organizations well, there's three. There's the Greenways Committee, there's the Tennessee Citizens for Wilderness Planning, and the Advocates for the Oak Ridge Reservation that are always involved in what goes on and what is being planned. And Ellen is a very, very powerful advocate in that group, in all those groups, as am I.
Thank you, Mr. Hensley. Mr. Heeman?
I would like to follow up on that, Councilman. That's a really great point. If you go back and you look, though, at all of our past agreements with DOE regarding where would preservation of land occur, where would development occur, what you'll see is all of those were initiated by the city asking for certain things, whether it would be preservation or development. And I view this as one of those stepping stones to start the new conversation on what does it look like now, because quite frankly, those things that we talked about, I think the last agreement was back in 1997. And so it's time to revisit all that. There's a new vision for what's going to happen at the lab, I think, and Y12 in those areas. And we need to work together with DOE on what is the future agreement that we will go after that comes out of this plan. And I'd also like to add one other thing is what you'll see is as we move forward here, you saw an 18-month timeline. So 19 months from when this project kicks off, I'll be coming to you one more time and I'll be saying, now it's time to look at the zoning ordinance, because what we do is we get more granular. The blueprint was up here, the comprehensive plan is going to be down here, and the next step after that will be, well, we've got to redo the zoning ordinance so that we can build what is in the comprehensive plan, the way the comprehensive plan and our citizens have said they want the community to look. And I'm sure that that is going to end up being one of those implementation items that is listed on Mr. Wilson's sheet when that comes over to us. But it will get us down to the point of we've got the zoning ordinance that helps us build what we need in the plan.
Thank you, Mr. Heeman. Any other questions or comments from City Council?
Just one.
Okay, Mr. Hope?
Just again, want to thank the steering committee, Planning Commission pulled together a great steering committee, and really appreciate you all going through the whole process of vetting through all the companies and coming down and picking this one. Really appreciate your time and effort in doing that.
Thank you, Mr. Hope. Ms. Smith?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this process after reading your proposal, and the insight that you showed in Oak Ridge is remarkable. And the plan seemed an extremely sensible way of going about this process. So I hope everything goes as smoothly as the proposal looks. I know things don't always work out that way in reality, but I'm looking forward to this. I have one sort of weird question. What is your client that has been with the company for 130 years?
The city of Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Big place.
It's grown a bit in 130 years.
So.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Blasius.
One last thing, and for those of you who weren't at the work session or members of the public who weren't there, I wanted to say that when we put out when the Planning Commission put out this RFP, we weren't sure exactly who would be interested. We knew that there would be interest, but we received 8 proposals from companies across the country, mostly southeast, but not completely. There was one in Illinois, one in Ohio. I remember off the top of my head, but they were robust. So first of all, the committee did yeoman's work in going through hundreds and hundreds of pages to try to figure out who to even shortlist and then talk to. But I wanted you guys to know how much interest there was from excellent firms across the country to want to do the plan for Oak Ridge. And and then when it came down to it, the committee was 100% in agreement, unequivocally, about who to select as number 1, and the Planning Commission unanimously endorsed that. I think enthusiastically, I can say. And then one last thing to your comment before I wanted to mention, when you were talking about what do you do afterwards, you know, how do you stay engaged or whatever. One of the references I spoke to about their company in the things like what did they do good, you know, what did you like about them, said that they stayed involved after the plan was over, their contract was completed, they'd been paid, they could leave, and they came back later and wanted to come and have a dinner for people who were involved in the planning process, just to thank the community for allowing them to be part of it, something that wasn't in their contract and they didn't have to do. So we had a specific example of how they stay involved.
Thank you, Mr. Blasius. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Any other questions or comments? Prior to voting, I would like to do this, again, give the audience an opportunity to chime in on this particular issue. If anybody in the audience would like to address the agreement with Freeze and Nichols for an update of the Oak Ridge Comprehensive Study, please feel free to come to the podium. Okay, didn't think so. Okay, we're going to go ahead and vote. Go to the board, please. And this is a resolution to authorize professional service agreement with Freeze and Nichols. The vote is 5-0. Motion carries. Okay, I think this time we're going to have Mr. Smith up, Chief Smith. Beth, would you mind reading the resolution, please?
A resolution authorizing the city to apply for and accept if awarded a School Resource Officer SRO program grant from the State of Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security to fund the cost of placing an SRO in 7 public schools in Oak Ridge.
Move to accept. Second. Okay. Mr. Smith.
I'm happy to announce that as of today, we are fully staffed in our school resource officers. We have 10 school resource officers, 7 funded by the state grant, the other 3 funded by our operational grant. One of those being a supervisor, a sergeant over the team, and we also have 1 at the preschool now. That's happened within the past week. And we have 1 that's a relief officer that's a floater that can move around to each of the schools if there's someone missing. So I'm pretty excited about it. It's taken us a year to get there, but we finally got full staff.
Okay. Any comments from council? I, for one, I'm looking forward to fully staffed SROs in our school coming into the next school year. I know that we can all sleep a little bit safer with a proactive rather than reactive response to things that would happen there. And I appreciate your due diligence in going through the process with your officers to make this happen. So thank you so much. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith.
I'd just like to hope that the rest of the department is doing well on staffing level. That we're not, you know, we do well with 10 school resource officers, but we need some people, guys on the street and women on the street too.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for bringing that up. And we're in the process of hiring 4 more officers right now. We have several that are in trainee status, a handful. But once we hire these 4 and they come on board, we'll have 1 more vacancy.
Oh, okay. That's close to fully staffed. That's great. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. The motion is to authorize for our police department to apply and, if received, fiscal year 25 school resource officer program grant. Let's go to the board. 5 ayes, no nays. Motion carries. Are we okay, Ms. Hickman? Okay. Okay, Chief Smith, I'm going to have you just stay there if you don't mind. I think the next item pertains to you and your department. Ms. Hickman, would you please read item D?
A resolution waiving competitive bids and authorizing the city to purchase police department employee uniforms, hats, accessories, and other associated items from Summit Uniforms in an amount not to exceed $81,384.86.
Move for approval.
Okay. Chief Smith.
There are three parts to this resolution. First being the normal expense that we bring to you each year, the $55,000 to get approval to use, to get a waiver to use the Summit Uniforms as our supplier. But there are two other parts. One is, your goodness, is over a year and a half ago, we ordered hats. And at that time, we had money in our budget to pay for it, and we're told there's various reasons for us not having those delivered in time. Part of it was, they said it had to do with manufacturing, still left over from COVID and for underemployment at the manufacturer. So we didn't receive them until just a few months ago, which is in a different fiscal year. So we're asking for permission to pay the $18,000 and some change for that. The third part is for items that were not paid for in the past 2 years that we were unaware of. Apparently, there was, whether we received the bills or not, we're not sure what happened, or if it was on the problems on our part. We've taken some steps in the past 2 years to make sure that those kind of things don't happen again, and that we have a process in place to make sure that all the bills are accounted for as they occur. But that was about, I think it's about $7,500, $74.75 for that. And that's why it came up to the amount of over $81,000.
Okay. Any questions from council? Okay. I don't see any, so we're going to go to the board. And the motion is to approve. 5 ayes, no nays. Motion carries. Okay. And Chief Smith, I believe you stay up. Okay, we're going to go to item E. And Madam Clerk, would you please read that?
A resolution waiving competitive bids and authorizing the city to renew the lease with Flock Group Incorporated, Atlanta, Georgia, for license plate readers for the police department in an amount not to exceed $53,800.
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Chief Smith, first of all, would you define what this is, because some people in the audience might not know?
License plate readers are units that are in various places around the city where they can read tags to, if we have, say if there's an Amber Alert, if there's a stolen vehicle, if there's someone that's a wanted person and we have their tag entered into the system, it helps to identify that vehicle so that we will know where they are so we can stop them. We've recovered a number of stolen vehicles. There's been at least one bank robbery that's been solved using the license plate readers. We've had several successes using this technology. Up until this past year, we were paying about $24,000 a year for our license plate readers. We're paying $2,000 each for 12 of them. And the company we leased them from was giving us 4 more at no cost. So we had 16 total that were different various points around the city. They've raised their cost to $3,000 per unit. So this would allow us to pay, part of this is paid by grant, about half of it's paid by grant, and the other half is paid for out of our operational fund.
Okay. Would you like to add something to that?
I would like to add one thing, and that is from a safety of an officer standpoint. One of the real benefits of this is they know exactly what it is when that license plate pops up. They're given all the information, of what that person has done, what this is, if it's a stolen vehicle, whatever it is. So from a safety standpoint, it gives our officers in the street more information to keep them safe.
Thank you, Mr. Heeman. Any questions from council? Ms. Smith.
Yeah, one thing that comes up when this kind of technology is discussed is people's concern for privacy. And so I believe that there are mechanisms to ensure that this technology is only used to monitor known or target license plates. But want to understand how we can assure that it's not determining whether Councilman Hensley was driving to the golf course on. Yeah, right. That's right. Yeah.
Each officer signs an agreement saying that they understand what the technology is used for, not just for license plate readers, but for computers in the department or access to National Crime Information Center database. Anything that's a database, they sign an agreement saying they will not abuse those resources.
And does the system have a way of basically preventing people from seeing stuff that's not supposed to be a target? Or
I can have someone look into it and brief me on that. I'll have to look into that to see if there's safety.
I trust you, but I'm just wondering whether we have a fail-safe on that, basically.
It is an alert that occurs because you're in the database.
Okay.
Is what it is. So, if it's a national database or if regionally somebody has entered that in as this license plate, this issue, it pulls from the database is what it does. So it does not track in that manner.
So we can assure citizens that this is not suitable for tracking random people. That's great.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Any other questions? Okay. Ms. Hickman, we'll go to the board on this. And the resolution is to approve. Ayes 5, no nays. Motion passes. Okay, we're going to go to our item F. Ms. Hickman, if you'll read that.
A resolution awarding a contract to Rogers Group Incorporated of Knoxville, Tennessee for the fiscal year 2025 street milling and resurfacing project in an amount not to exceed $1,171,070.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Flynn, you want to talk to us?
This is annual resurfacing contract. It's a short list, but it's a bunch of high-traffic streets. Emory Valley, this is the east end. The west end's previously been resurfaced, so it's in pretty good shape. There's one section in the east end that's kind of reasonable, but I don't want to cherry pick it, so we're just going to go all the way to Mountain Lake Drive. Hillside, I've put off a couple of times. I put it off this time because we had a grant to do a bunch of sidewalk work up there, so I'm finishing that up before we pave it. And then we got a couple of other streets on here also.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments?
Fix the hole in Georgia Avenue.
Sir?
Fix the hole in Georgia Avenue.
Tell me where it's at.
Yeah, so, yeah, like I said, it's a hole right now. There was a water main break there and it's.
Oh, okay.
So,
I got you.
Fix the hole.
Okay, we can do that.
So, Mr. Flynn, Warehouse Road, there's a lot of that on this. Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
Warehouse Road?
Warehouse Road's just totally beat up.
Yeah.
It's the best way I know to put
Thank
it.
you for that. Appreciate it.
It's just got a lot of industrial traffic.
Oh, I know it.
Big challenge with that is going to be getting it to drain because it's so flat and the parking lots just merge into the road. We're going to have a challenge doing that, but we think we can figure out how to make it work.
Mr. Hammond, did you have a question?
Well, I was trying to quick gauge. I know we had some long-term, street resurfacing kind of strategies. Is this a part of that, or because I'm remembering conversations before that were a while back.
This is part of that. I've got the streets rated basically numerically, and we use that as guidance. We don't use it solely from worst to best because we consider traffic. These streets are much higher traffic streets. They deteriorate faster than a dead-end street, for example. So we tend to go to the higher traffic streets.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Inslee, you had a question earlier? No? Okay. Any other questions? Okay. The motion is to approve. Go to the board, please. Ayes 5, no nays, motion carries. Ms. Hickman, will you read the next item?
A resolution waiving competitive bids and making an award to Mansfield Oil Company for furnishing unleaded and diesel fuel for fiscal year 2025 in the estimated amount of $600,000.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Majeski, thank you for coming up. Would you like to go ahead and turn your mic on?
You're sorry. Is it on? Yep. Mansfield has been the fuel company that we've been using for the city for probably close to 30 years now. We are still using the contract and getting the best pricing that we have been because we have been using that contract for so many years. And is there any questions that you have on that?
Council has any questions for Ms. Majeski? Thank you for your service to the city.
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Smith?
Yeah, I think we've been told in the past that they came through for us in times of fuel crisis when other communities weren't necessarily getting the fuel they needed. But Mansfield put us high on the list, and we got what we needed, which is a huge reason to stick with them. So appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and go to the board. It is to approve. Ayes 5, no nays. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Majeski. We're going to go to item H now. Ms. Hickman?
A resolution authorizing the city manager and city attorney to negotiate contracts with the Oak Ridge Chamber of Commerce, Ray Evans, and the Convention and Visitors Bureau for budgeted services for fiscal year 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I don't know if I should go to Ms. Rackard or Mr. Heeman.
We could tag team it.
Let's do that.
These are your annual contracts. The CVB has increased a little bit this year. The chamber contract was the same as previous years, as we're proposing the same for Mr. Evans' contract. And Mr. Evans does a lot of work for us on everything from, he's looked at the Linden School issue, helping us find property now for animal shelter. So we're keeping him really busy this year. But this would allow us to negotiate those contracts and sign those.
Okay. Ms. Rackard, do you have anything to add?
No. We're ready to go. We've already looked at last year's contracts and updated what we would see on our side need to be updated for this year. So we're ready to start that process tomorrow morning if it passes tonight.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Mr. Hensley?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I've known Mr. Evans for years, and he's really a very quiet and very strong resource in this town. He used to be the CEO of Barge Wagner. He used to work for TDOT. He still has connections in those areas, so he can find ways to communicate when nobody else can. So he's pretty amazing.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, the motion is to negotiate contracts with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, the Chamber, and Ray Evans for fiscal year 2025. Let's go to the board, please. Ayes 5, no nays. Motion passes. Okay. Okay, we're going to come to the appearance of citizens. As we move on to the next agenda items, the chair shall recognize a citizen's opportunity to comment on items that are under consideration by the city council as a part of the formal agenda. The chair shall recognize members of the public after all council members have been given the opportunity to be heard on an individual item. A citizen will raise his or her hand, and recognition by the chair, proceed to the public lectern and state your name and address. Upon recognition, the chair, members of the public may speak for up to 3 minutes. Written statements may also be filed with the city clerk, who shall distribute them to the city council at the earliest possible time. Again, this pertains to items that are on tonight's, that are on tonight's agenda, not on tonight's agenda, I'm sorry, there will be an opportunity for citizens to speak on non-items at this time. Okay? At this time, do we have anybody in the audience who would like to address council on items that were not on the agenda tonight? Okay, go ahead and come forward. Thank you. And if you'll just state your name and address, and I know you.
Hello, Mr. Dyson. Good evening, everyone. My name is Juanica Mitchell, Hatcher Mitchell, and I am a resident of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and property owner of 114 and lot 116 Spelman Avenue. I am here this evening because there was an incident on my property of 116 Spelman Avenue on June 29th, approximately around 3 p.m., involving the Oak Ridge Police Department. There were 2 officers. One is unknown. One of them, I found out his name was Officer Thomas. I was standing, I'm just here to give you just a brief summary because I know I just have 3 minutes before you. So I would just like to say that I was standing in my, I approached my doorway, and there was 2 officers on my property, and I instantly went out and I asked the officer, excuse me verbatim, excuse me, can you please tell me what's going on? The officer immediately waved me away, shooed me away, okay? I felt that that was very disrespectful. I kept asking him why he was there. He would not tell me why he was there. He did not tell me why he was there until he proceeded to his cruiser, police cruiser 122. There was the cruiser number, and I multiple times asked him why he was on my property, and he told me that he did not have to give me, a reason of why he was on my property. He proceeded to get in his vehicle, let the window up, about to drive off. I'm standing in front of his cruiser. I asked him, I said, so you're going to pull off, you're going to run me over? And he didn't say anything, and I tapped on the window, and he let the window down and told me to get away from his car. I told him that was not his car. He did not want to give me an explanation of why he was on my property. I felt violated and disrespected at the same time. I proceeded to go in my home. He drove off. I proceeded to go in my home and call the police department to speak with someone. I spoke with Lieutenant John Hill, I think it was, on that same day, right after the issue had happened. And he told me that I could come down to the police department. He seemed like he didn't care why I was calling. And he said that he would have to, listen to, what the police officer Thomas had said. That's when I received his name.
Okay, that was your 3 minutes. I'm sorry, I have to stop you, but that's okay. So I would like if anybody on council would like to comment on this, I'll give them an opportunity, and then I'm going to direct our city manager to investigate this occurrence, okay?
Yeah, just a quick
Mr.
thought,
Harris.
as I've spoken with Ms. Mitchell a little bit earlier, and I've also spoken with the chief, and so I'm going to publicly note some things we've shared in our conversations, one with regard to community policing strategies, community policing strategies and relationship building strategies. And so I'm just going to quick ask kind of where some of those strategies are, at least in looking at relationship building between officers and communities. She did share this with me, and there were some disturbing aspects of the conversation, particularly when she noted, she didn't get to it in her 3 minutes, but I got a little bit more time just to note when she came to the department to file a complaint and a concern of the way she felt, at least she was treated and engaged in that particular space, left outside. It was some interesting dynamics. So So anyway, I'll ask the chief, if you don't mind, speaking to your awareness of this incident and/or kind of some of the broader policing and community policing strategies that you're engaging in the department.
I'm not familiar with the incident. I'm really glad Ms. Mitchell came to speak to the council tonight. If it's okay with the city manager, I would like to meet with her to get some more information so I can look into it.
Sure.
Because I'm not familiar with the circumstances. So if I can get some more information from her, I have some time to look into it and ask the captain to help me with that tomorrow. So if you have a few minutes after we're through here.
Does that sound good, Ms. Mitchell? Will that work?
Or whenever's convenient for you.
Okay.
One other thing, I was interested when she mentioned the kind of filing a complaint. I'd be interested in getting with you to look at just exploring the complaint process, if you will. How many sort of do we get? You don't have to go out, you may or may not know it now, but just kind of as I was listening to some of that conversation, I was like, you know what, I'm not sure how that process works. And so do we track how many complaints, what their resolution looks like? We do? Okay. All right. So anything?
Normally people come to the station and file a written complaint. Sometimes it's just verbal. We'd like to get a statement so we can document what the issues are so we can look into them. But we're getting ready to do that here in a few minutes. I'd like to talk to Ms. Mitchell and just get some information so we can proceed.
Okay. And, okay.
If that's okay.
Mr. Hammond?
Yeah, no, I've shared. I know she raised her hand, so I won't speak for her.
Yeah, you can go ahead and add
Be
something.
noted. And I'm here just because I feel like I can't be heard going to ORPD. This is not only my first issue with them before. I'm coming here because I want to be heard. I went to the police department to try and file a complaint, and they had me stand outside, didn't ask me to come in. They provided me with a piece of paper to write my issue on. And at that point, because that has happened to me previously before, you know, years ago, and the paper was crumbled right there in front of me in the trash can. So I felt like I needed to come here just so that I can be heard and so that it will be noted and documented.
So Ms. Mitchell, thank you for bringing that to our attention. I'm going to direct our city manager, Mr. Heeman, as well as our chief of police, Robin Smith, to get together and arrange some time so that they can look at the issue and possibly get back with you and talk to you about this. Does that sound okay?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you again for bringing it to our attention. And I am certain,
Sure.
Mr. Heeman.
Yeah, we'll schedule time when we'll both meet with you.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good to see you. Okay. Any other citizen have anything to bring forward? Okay, no? Okay, elections, appointments, announcements, and scheduling. Ms. Hickman, do you have anything? Council? Okay, I'm going to do this. She probably won't like it, but I have an announcement. I'd like for Donna Smith to come forward. So a lot of you all don't know Donna and the contributions that she's made to, and thank you for that, contributions that she's made to our city. Today is her birthday, and I thought we would recognize Donna's birthday today.
Right, that's it.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Donna. Happy birthday to you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You can blame that on Miss Hickman.
She
Now
said, I
go
don't know if
home
I'm
and
going to
write a
go
good
or watch it on
story.
TV. So I said, you need to come.
Our next item, council requests for new business items or future briefings. Do we have any? Nope. Okay. We'll move on to the summary of current events, city manager's report.
Just a couple of quick things. I do want to thank all of our staff that was involved in the 4th of July, first 4th of July here. Spectacular fireworks show, very well organized. I want to thank all the departments that did that. I do want to tell you for our work session on the 16th, we've got a number of things on there, including a little bit of history about self-sufficiency parcels. Want to talk about our electric connection fees, shift thermal project. One of the things that we probably should have or could have put up on the strategic plan was to serve as a test bed for some of these products that come out of the lab. Shift thermal is one of those that we want to talk to you about that does some HVAC things that we would like to actually allow to be tested in one of our facilities. We've got the most exciting thing on the agenda, of course, is the records retention schedule update. The thrill of this year. And also we've got outside agency donation policy. We are attempting to get somebody from DOE Environmental to come and give an update. That may be at a future meeting. We've invited them to this one, but it is short notice. We're going to see over the next few meetings when we can get them to come. But a lot of things on the agenda. If there's anything else that you want on the agenda, please let me know.
Mr.
That's all I
Hensley?
had to report.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment that I thought the concert and the fireworks were probably the best I can remember, and the timing was perfect. The concert ended, it didn't go too long, and the fireworks were immediate. It was great. No dead time in between. It was wonderful.
Ms. Smith?
Yeah, one thing I've had communication with staff on that I was hoping would be on the next work session is new ordinance or revision to ordinance to clarify that through buses are not supposed to go through residential neighborhoods. So, yeah, and...
Yeah, we can put that on there for next week.
Okay,
That's fine.
appreciate that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for our manager? Okay. City Attorney, Ms. Rackard. Okay. Any other questions or comments or statements? I get to adjourn this meeting almost 30 minutes prior to when we're supposed to adjourn. So thank you all. Thank you to the city employees, and thank you for City Council for your service. I appreciate it. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Charles.